Hey guys, I'm a little late on this. I think this patch came out Tuesday for Abyssal Depths patch 4 for Albion Online. I have the full release changes here. I think by the time you're seeing this, it's going to be Friday. Um, it seems like a lot of the changes pretty much stayed the same. One of the notable things that didn't go live was the Locust change that was going to go in. I'm super excited that it didn't, to be honest, because I think that Locust is pretty well situated for the meta for ZVZ, and I would have hated to not have that defensive. Overall, crystal offhands getting put into the game, although the artifacts aren't available from Conqueror's chests until the guild season ends. I have not used these. I don't even know if they're in the game at all, given the artifacts are not in. Um, Based on what I've seen, they're okay. I don't think that they were up to the level of other crystal items that are in the game, and more could have been done. Mist changes, adjusted mist instance management to focus more players into each instance. This really hurt the game, but in an like unintended way, I feel like, and I'll get to why in a second. Unenchanted lethal mists are less likely to have an entrance to Brazilian, more likely to have an unstable road. This sucks for people who are looking for a Brazilian portal specifically to like transport out of their hideout or something. Um, Otherwise, it's whatever. It's cool that it only applies to lethal mists because I don't want to not have I don't want to make it harder to find Brazilian in general. I think that especially for non-lethal, I'm glad that it is so easy to find a portal to Breck sometimes. Nightfall Abbey chests now give a stack of Nightly Grace. I think that this is like a backwards port from the changes that happened to Depths, where the chest would give a buff. Makes sense to me. Blessing Valor now adds immunity to force movement. Not really sure why they did that, and it's weird that they didn't include a note like this, like they did with the other stuff. Forced dismount by damage, no longer grants cleanse and crowd control immunity when disarray is active. Basically, what that means is that like if a brawl group wants to get inside you, they can't just mount up, get in you, dismount, and immediately start combat. Um, I'll, if they mount and come inside you and then dismount, the chances are they're probably just going to die because you could just target them immediately and they won't be immune to crowd control. So you could just clump them and kill them. Make your life a lot easier, to be honest. Force dismount in mists, dismounted by damage. 50% damage and crowd control strength is now applied for 10 seconds when dismounted by a hostile player who is in combat with another player. This is the change that I think is making it so that this change up here is bad. By adjusting the mist instance management to focus more players into each instance, what people are doing is they're purposely queuing at the same time to try to get into a mist together, get into combat, and then dismount a third person and then team up on that third person while they're debuffed for 50% of their damage, which is trash. That shouldn't be that way. Um, I think that this change on its own probably still pretty bad, given that that could happen anyway, even without this debuff existing. But I think teaming up in mists is like gonna be a difficult thing for SBI to solve. But this specific thing for damage reduction being put in so that people can't third party, by solving one problem, they sort of created another, which is sort of an issue. Maybe they should just revert both those changes for now until they figure out a better solution. Some like other changes with like max buy order going down from 9999 to 9990. This is so that you could just have 10 even stacks of 999. So there wasn't just like nine left over. That made buy orders a little weird. Trading in Hellgates is no longer possible. Not really sure why. Albion missions getting adjusted. The last time they adjusted missions, I wasn't a huge fan because they adjusted them downward. Um, I, I was okay with the way that things were, making things easier for people, um, especially in the beginning, in my opinion, is good. Maybe they should just have more things in the journal just reward fame. I think that it just helps earlier players better. Combat balance changes, which I'll go over here in a second. Some vanity, spell fixes, UI fixes. Fix an issue where Crystal Arena rank rewards wrongly stated claimed when the rewards were locked for the season until at least one arena match was played. I have personally seen this issue, so I'm glad that they fixed it. The other stuff here is whatever. You can go to the patch notes to read it. I'm not going to go over small fixes. Combat stuff for the balance changes. I think that this is like the whole reason I wanted to make the video is to update what I had previously gone over. One thing that I noticed immediately when I opened this is that the locus change is not here. Again, would have been a huge bummer if that went in. Not a fan. Protective beam did see this small change to shield range. I think that you're not really going to notice, although it's like a 20% increase. So, I mean, maybe you will notice a little bit. Time freeze got a little bit of a nerf. This is going to make it harder for brim bombs to do their job. Um, Realistically, I'm okay with that. Great Arcane is almost too good sometimes. And given that it is also being used for bombing setup, I think that it's okay to have a little bit of a small decrease just specifically for that use case. Um, Astral Staff is going from 9 to 8 meter radius. This is a pretty big deal given that Astral Staff's like one thing is that it covers a wider area. So I don't want them to go too low with this here. Resilience penetration coming down just means that it does a little bit less damage. I think maybe just it was too strong. Astral is really good. Generally, you only really use one though because they don't overlap. So like, it could be a little strong. I'm okay with it. Motivating cleanse on all arcane staffs did go up 3 seconds cooldown. You're going to notice this in larger scale combat. In smaller scale combat, you might not even be using cleanse, so it's not even going to affect you. Curse Tar got changed, but Curse Sickle didn't. So originally, the Curse Sickle change was that it was going to go from 5 to 4 seconds, and that this was going to go from 4 to 5. Sickle change obviously didn't go live. I'm kind of sad about that. I would love to have seen Sickle get a little bit more love. I don't think that it gets used often enough, and I get why they did this. Um, Demon Fang, the chances are that you're going to lose more health, which is something that they talk about in here. More likely to increase self damage. Um, so the increase of damage just like a little bit, scaling with IP. I'm not a huge fan of this change, and I wonder if it can be cleansed, which was something that I said the first go around. Have not tested that. Elapsed time before casting recall daggers now refunded. Yeah, whatever. That's just a functional change, really. Mostly for cooldown management. I don't really think that that does a lot for Twin Slayers, which hardly ever gets used. The buff to freezing wind went in. Huge come up for frost staves. I think that this is big for most content types, but especially big in any kind of ZVZ where you would bring a frost staff. Any kind of a frost staff gets a benefit from this. They pretty much all use freezing wind. Um, Holy Staves, the Fallen Staff immunity to damage for 2 seconds went into the game. I think this is nuts. I can't wait to see how this plays in the coming weeks when I get some more testing in with Fallen Staff. But I think that this is fantastic. Having it go from 10 to 20 targets is also massive because that means that it hits your whole party. That's crazy to me. Um, Sanctity or Sanctify Exalted Staff getting an IP cooldown and base cooldown reduction. I think that Exalted Staff is already really good at doing its job. In order for this weapon to be like become amazing, you have to be really high IP with it. I think that 25 seconds is low. Maybe the scaling doesn't even need to be there and they just need to flatten this whole cooldown to 30 seconds because like I want people to get the benefit out of using it for the utility even at lower IP. And I think a lot of the reason that people don't use this staff is because they don't have 100 in exalted staff and all of the holy staves for this to even be like remotely worth a shit at like let's say 1600 IP where it would be like 35-ish something seconds, something like that. Um, Nature Staves, all Nature Staves for Rejuvenating Flower 10 to 15. I don't know why they didn't just make this 20, but okay. Um, Increases in a little bit of healing. I think that Rejuvenating Flower, dude, hear me out. It is the better ability in that slot. I think that it is, in my opinion, this is the thing that I would want to be using in most scenarios if you're using Blight correctly, um, which is that people have to come to you to get heals away from the group, even because I don't like how nature staves affect healing sickness. If you're looking to get into healing, please do not try nature healing first. It is not advised. Understand healing with a holy weapon first, and the crutch of having to deal with healing sickness on a spam weapon, right? Versus being on a nature stave and just throwing heals wherever you think they could be on even full health targets, which makes no sense to me. I can't stand nature weapons, to be honest. Um, which is crazy because they're increasing the targets for these staves, and a buff to rampant staff now removes the damage over time effects on players that the animal touches. This is pretty good. I think rampant staff was already good. I have a soft spot for rampant staff specifically when it comes to like castle style over the wall content, just because it's easier to place and move and have people stand on it like in a clump without really feeling like you're like you don't want to clump up, like that's not a thing that you want to do in larger combat. Galantine pair seeing a little bit of love, definitely not enough love in my opinion for it to see too much more use. I think that it's okay for maybe like solo bombing, but I hardly ever see anybody play it. Claymore seeing a little bit of love. The pass through damage going from 33% to 66% is actually the biggest change. Um, so the more targets that it hits, the more damage that it's going to do to each target and total, right? Like um, just huge damage come up in general for hitting multiple targets, especially if they're all clumped on top of each other. If if Claymore saw more use in like Hellgates or something, I think that it would make sense. But beyond that, I don't think that this change is going to affect enough in the meta for Claymore to see like a ton more use, for example, in much other types of content. I talked about face scale robes the last time. The cooldown going up makes sense. Face scale robe is, in my opinion, a little too strong, but only for the first ability, which is weird because I think that they just need to either tone, tone the other two abilities up, or tone the first ability down a little. Make it like a half circle or something, or make it a wall rather than like a full ring. I think it would make a lot more sense for this ability, and maybe they could put it back at 30 seconds if they nerfed it a little. Everlasting Spirit from Cleric Robe going to 50 to 45. That's pretty good. I like Cleric Robe. I think it is a good ability. That 5 seconds might not seem like a lot, but when your cooldown is 50 seconds, it's a pretty good chunk. Fear Aura on Fiend Robe. This is cool for 2v2 Hellgate, somebody was saying. And the fear duration going from 1 second to 2 seconds basically just means that you'll be able to do something. By the time that you feared somebody, um, somebody said that it wouldn't feel like the fear did enough when it was 1 second. So maybe that's why they like just fully doubled it, to be honest. Purging Shield on Mage Robe. This went live? Okay, not quite. This got tuned down a lot, but this is still outrageous in my opinion. It used to have resistance increase, but they removed the resistance increase in favor of just straight up damage DR. This was going to be like fucking 40% live or something like that. The fact that it's even 33%, in my opinion, is still pretty massive. I'm excited to know whether or not people are going to be using this. Wind Wall makes you less invincible now. I love to see that because I hate Knight Armor, which I think I said last time. Ambush radius on Assassin Jacket down 2 meters. Yay. Position swap, Fiend Sandals, added immunity now applies to ally target. Yeah, that's kind of cool actually, because now it can save lives, which is cool. Um, Spectral on a Spectre shoes. This is going to be cool for skip setting in Ava. I think I talked about that last time a little bit more in depth. Smuggler Cape cooldown reduction going from 90 to 80. Uh, pretty pretty decent nerf actually. I think, especially when it's coupled with this healing potion change, taking it from 90 to 105. It's going to change the meta. Used to just basically back to back two healing potions, especially in like mist content stuff like that. Realistically, I think that this change is not going to affect any kind of ZVZ stuff or gigs, and obviously this isn't a gig change, so whatever. Oxes are getting changed in general. I'm not going to go over each and every one of them like I did last time, but just know that the higher end ox is now going up to 3,200 kilograms and 110% gallop speed. This is going to make Elders Transport Ox probably the premium transport thing that you want to be using if you're not using a Mammoth, right? Like the step between. And I really hope that this is a signaling that they're going to change some stuff when the faction changes go live. It seems like a lot of the stuff that was in the notes did go through. Although, like I said, Locust change, the Cursed Sickle change, and the robe, the mage's robe change were probably like the most significant things that are different. If I missed anything, feel free to leave a comment down below. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow the channel. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. You would be doing me a kindness. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one.